When you feel anger then guilt and don't know why, you know when you get really angry at someone you love, your mom, your partner, your best friend, and then immediately feel this crushing guilt. Like, how could I think that about them? Well, Freud said something that might blow your mind. To love also means to hate, and that's completely normal. You're not a bad person. You're not broken. You're just human. And today I'm going to explain why your mind does this weird anger guilt dance. And more importantly, how to stop torturing yourself about it. Before we dive into your emotional roller coaster, hit that subscribe button if you want to understand your mind without all the psychology jargon. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and ring that bell because we're about to decode what Freud discovered about the messiest parts of being human. So let's start with something that happens to literally everyone, but nobody talks about it. You're having a normal day, then someone you care about, let's say your mom, does something that just gets under your skin. Maybe she criticizes your life choices again, or your partner leaves dishes in the sink again, or your best friend cancels plans last minute again, and suddenly you feel this surge of anger. Not just annoyance, real, hot anger. Maybe you think, I can't stand her sometimes, or he's so selfish, or she always does this. But then, boom, guilt hits like a truck. How could I think that about mom? She sacrificed everything for me. He's actually a great partner. I'm being awful. She's my best friend. What's wrong with me? And now you're not just dealing with the original problem. You're dealing with anger and guilt and confusion about why you feel this way. Sound familiar? If you're nodding right now, welcome to what Freud called ambivalent feelings, and you're in excellent company because literally every human on Earth experiences this. What Freud discovered. Here's what Freud figured out that was revolutionary. All our important relationships are ambivalent. Think of it like this. Imagine your feelings are like a coin. We're taught to believe that love is heads and hate is tails, and you can only have one side at a time. But Freud said, no, the coin is spinning. Both sides exist simultaneously. He called this ambivalence, and it's not a bug in your emotional system. It's a feature. Why? Because the people closest to us are the ones who have the most power to hurt us, disappoint us, and trigger our deepest insecurities. Your mom knows exactly which buttons to push because she installed them. Your partner can wound you in ways a stranger never could because you've given them access to your vulnerable spots. So when you feel angry at someone you love, you're not being contradictory. You're being human. But here's where it gets tricky, and this is the part that creates all that guilt. Most of us were raised with what I call the Disney version of love. Good people only feel positive emotions toward people they care about. If you're angry at mom, you're ungrateful. If you're frustrated with your partner, you don't really love them. If you're annoyed with your friend, you're a bad friend. This is what Freud called repression of aggressive feelings. We push down the anger because we've been taught it's wrong or bad. But here's the thing, when you repress anger, it doesn't disappear. It goes underground, and what happens underground? It ferments. It turns into guilt, anxiety, depression, or it explodes later in ways that are way more destructive than the original anger ever was. The psychology behind the guilt. Let me give you a visual metaphor that will help this make sense. Imagine your mind is like a house. The living room is your conscious mind, all the thoughts and feelings you're aware of. But there's also a basement, You're unconscious now. When you feel anger towards someone you love, your inner judge, what Freud called the superego, immediately steps in and says, "No, bad. You can't think that about mom, partner, friend." So you take the anger, you shove it down into the basement. Problem solved, right? Wrong. Because now you have this angry feeling locked in your basement. Your inner judge is standing guard, saying, "You're a terrible person for even having that thought." That's where the guilt comes from. But here's what's really happening. You're not feeling guilty about the original situation. You're feeling guilty about having normal human emotions. It's like being angry at yourself for being hungry. Hunger isn't wrong. It's information. Anger isn't wrong. It's also information. Let me give you some real-life examples. Example 1. The overprotective parent. Your mom calls you 5 times a day to check in. Part of you feels loved and cared for, but another part feels suffocated and controlled. You think, "I wish she'd just leave me alone." Then immediately, "She just loves me. I'm such a bad daughter, son." Example 2. The partner with annoying habits. Your partner chews loudly, never puts the cap back on the toothpaste, always leaves their clothes on the floor. You love them deeply, but in that moment, you think, "How did I end up with someone so inconsiderate?" Then the guilt. "They're amazing. I'm focusing on stupid things." Example 3. The friend who's always late. Your friend is chronically late to everything. You're standing there for 30 minutes, feeling disrespected. You think, "This is so selfish. I'm tired of this," then, but they're going through a hard time. I'm being unsupportive. In each case, the anger is giving you information. This behavior affects me, and I have needs too. But the guilt is saying, "You're bad for having needs." Why this pattern is so destructive? When you constantly repress anger and replace it with guilt, several things happen. 1. You lose touch with your boundaries. Anger often signals that a boundary has been crossed. When you guilt yourself out of feeling angry, you stop protecting your boundaries. You become a doormat, and then you wonder why people walk all over you. 2. You develop resentment. Repressed anger doesn't go away, it accumulates. It's like putting a lid on a boiling pot. Eventually, it explodes, and when it does, it's usually way more destructive than the original anger would have been. 3. You lose authenticity in relationships. When you can't acknowledge your full range of feelings, you can't have genuine relationships. You become this nice person who never expresses needs or frustrations. And your relationships become shallow. 4. You develop anxiety and depression. Freud said that depression is often anger turned inward. When you can't be angry at others, you become angry at yourself. Anxiety often comes from the constant effort of monitoring and controlling your unacceptable feelings. Here's a story that illustrates this perfectly. I know someone who never, ever expressed anger toward their parents. They were the perfect child, always grateful, never complained, never caused problems. But they developed severe anxiety in their 20s and couldn't figure out why. In therapy, they discovered they were carrying decades of repressed anger about their parents' divorce, their father's drinking, their mother's emotional unavailability. They thought they were being good by not feeling angry, but they were actually making themselves sick. Freud's solution. So what did Freud suggest? How do you handle this anger-guilt cycle? Step 1. Normalize the ambivalence. First, you need to accept that ambivalent feelings are normal. You can love someone and be angry at them. You can be grateful to your parents and frustrated with them. You can adore your partner and be annoyed by them. Freud said, "We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. Love makes you as vulnerable, and vulnerability creates a full spectrum of emotions." Step 2. Name the feelings without judgment. Instead of "I'm a terrible person for thinking this," try, "I'm noticing that I'm feeling angry right now, and that's information about my needs." Instead of "I shouldn't feel this way," try, "I'm having a human reaction to a frustrating situation." Step 3. Separate the feeling from the action. You can feel angry without being cruel. You can acknowledge frustration without being destructive. Freud distinguished between having a feeling and acting on it inappropriately. Step 4. Use the anger as information. Ask yourself, what is this anger telling me about my needs? What boundary might be getting crossed? What do I need to communicate? Step 5. Express needs, not attacks. Instead of "You always do this," "You're so selfish." Try "I need more consideration when we make plans," instead of "You're driving me crazy." Try "I'm feeling overwhelmed and need some space." Step 6. Practice self-compassion. Remember that having complex feelings about people you love doesn't make you bad. It makes you human. Even the most loving parents sometimes feel frustrated with their children. Even the most devoted partners sometimes annoy each other. The freedom in accepting ambivalence. Here's what's beautiful about accepting ambivalence. It actually makes your relationship stronger, not weaker. When you can acknowledge that you sometimes feel frustrated with people you love, you stop expecting them to be perfect. You stop expecting yourself to be perfect. You can have real conversations about real problems instead of pretending everything is fine. You can say, "I love you, and I need you to know that when you do X, it affects me in my way." You can think, "I'm grateful for my mom, and I'm allowed to need boundaries." You can feel, "I adore my partner, and I'm human enough to get annoyed sometimes." This isn't about becoming a person who complains all the time or treats people badly. It's about becoming a person who can feel the full spectrum of human emotions without guilt or shame. Freud believed that psychological health comes from integration, acknowledging all parts of yourself, even the parts that seem contradictory. Practical steps for your daily life. So here's what you can do starting today. When you feel the anger-guilt cycle starting, pause and breathe. Notice what's happening without judging it. Name it. "I'm feeling angry right now, and now I'm feeling guilty about the anger." Ask, what is this anger telling me about my needs or boundaries? Remind yourself, I can love this person and have other feelings too. Decide, how can I honor both my love for this person and my need to address this situation? Act from love, not guilt. Address the issue because you care about the relationship, not because you feel bad about having feelings. So, what do you think? Does this make sense? Have you ever found yourself in this anger-guilt cycle with someone you love? I want to hear your stories in the comments below. And remember, there's no judgment here. We're all figuring out how to be human together. If this helped you understand yourself a little better, smash that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe for more insights into the beautiful mess of being human. And here's my question for you. What's one relationship where you've been afraid to acknowledge your full range of feelings? Think about it. You don't have to tell me, but maybe it's time to be honest with yourself. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll explore more of what Freud discovered about the hidden workings of your mind. Until then, be gentle with yourself. You're doing better than you think.